Hello, my name is Winnie. I hope you're doing well. If you're new here, I am starting a brand new save file, and in this save file, I'm starting from the ground up, whether it be builds or families. And this is one of many families that I will be inputting. They are, in fact, from The Sims 2, because The Sims 2 has so much lore, and to carry on into The Sims 4 parallel universe, I thought, why not add the families with the most drama? If you haven't already seen it, I did create this family's home, and I talked a little bit about their background, but not too much because I wanted to save it for this video, where I talk about each individual sim. This is the Monty family, and they are the rivals of the Cat family, which I do have 2 videos, one on the Cat family's home, and then a second video where I talk about the Cat family. This is the patriarch of the Monty family. His name is Patrizio. He is essentially the arch rival of the Cat family. When he was younger, he was involved with Contessa Cap, and he was best friends with Consort Cap. In the research that I've done, what I was able to find was that he and Consort had a falling out because, one, Consort married Contessa, and also their business views were completely different from each other. So a bit of a disclaimer, since this is a save file that I'm creating, yes, I'm taking inspiration from other Sims families from previous games. Their stories are definitely not following what previous games have stated or insinuated, and since The Sims 4 is on a completely different timeline, I created my own stories for the families. Since Patrizio and Consort used to be best friends and business partners, I imagine Contessa had an arranged marriage to Consort, which obviously upset Patrizio, and he had Consort promise that he would not go along with the marriage. But unfortunately, Consort was power hungry and really wanted the Cap money and name. So he went against his best friend and married Contessa, which is exactly what sparked the feud between the Caps and the Montys. On this timeline, Patrizio and his wife, Isabella, are actually deceased. I did decide to have them pass on this timeline because I felt like it really fit into the storyline that I had created. Now that his father has passed, Claudio has stepped up to take over the family business. Does this also mean the rivalry between the Caps still stands? Especially since his son has fallen in love with a Cap heiress. On this timeline, Patrizio Monty was actually a criminal and he made it to the very top of the career, which became the family business. Patrizio definitely gives me Tony Soprano vibes.
It's done.
So that's kind of what I was imagining when thinking about this storyline, and considering him and Consort had a big falling out, I would imagine since Consort went to go marry Contessa and take over the Cap business, he became a very well-known businessman, whereas Patrizio stayed with the mob and built his name there. And because of his mob ties, that's how he met his wife, Isabella. So if you know anything about mobs, usually they control other businesses and make the businesses pay them. So I would imagine Patrizio basically took over a restaurant business and they would have to pay him, and that's how he met Isabella, because Isabella's family owned one of those restaurants and she actually fell in love with Patrizio. And even though Patrizio was still bitter about Consort marrying Contessa, he decided that he would go along and marry Isabella anyways. And the plot begins to thicken here because they didn't pass away at the same time. Isabella actually passed away in a fire, despite having a maxed out cooking skill and being the head of her family restaurant business for years. Patrizio actually passes away from old age, And if you have seen my Create a Sim video of the cat family, you'll know that Consort and Contessa's youngest daughter actually passed away in a fire with her husband. Coincidence? I think not. Despite Patrizio's bitterness, him and Isabella did actually have 3 children, Bianca, Antonio, and Claudio. Bianca is the oldest, and she really thinks the family feud is ridiculous. And honestly, she isn't the only one that thinks the family feud is ridiculous. But she did move out on her own as soon as she possibly could. Even though she completely disagrees with the family feud, she does continue on her mother's legacy and runs one of her few restaurants. She also bears her own little secret and actually has a big crush on Kent Cap, the youngest son of Consort and Contessa. And nobody even really knows that they know each other, except for Reagan's husband, Reagan being Consort and Contessa's second oldest daughter. In Sims 2, Bianca actually has a best friend, Titania Summerdream, who also has a crush on Kent Cap, despite Titania also being involved with somebody else. But in this save, I don't think I'm really gonna incorporate the Summerdream family, just because they don't really fit into the aesthetic unless I turn them into or spin them off in another type of way. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I really wish that the Sims 4 relationship panel worked a different way. So like in The Sims 2, one sim would feel one way about another, and that sim that they had those feelings for wouldn't feel the same. Like the feelings wouldn't be mutual. I feel like that would definitely help this story out really well, or any Sims 4 story for that matter. But oh well. But despite Bianca disagreeing with the family feud, she does carry on her mother's legacy, and she doesn't necessarily plan on doing it forever, but she also doesn't want to let anything happen to the family business. Well, that side of the family business. She has actually been teaching Claudio's wife, Olivia, how to run the restaurant, and Olivia actually runs one of her own restaurants that is involved with the Montys. So basically the restaurants are in, I guess, a franchise, and Bianca runs one and then Olivia will run another. But eventually, in time, Olivia can run all of them. Now, as for the middle child, Antonio, he's actually widowed with 2 children. They're twins, and his wife, Hero, actually passed away also in a fire. Coincidence? I think not. But Antonio is more, I guess, aware of the whole situation. He definitely holds a grudge against his father because he believes Hero's demise was 100% because of his family's feud, which is really tragic. But so he's left taking care of his twins, Beatrice and Benedict. And considering his views, he doesn't really want anything to do with either family business. In The Sims 2, he is employed as an executive chef, but on the Sims 4 timeline that I have created, he has quit his job and is looking elsewhere. And considering what he believes, I would imagine him and his brother Claudio don't have a very great relationship because of it, especially since Claudio has since decided to take over his father's business. Claudio is the youngest out of his siblings, and since Bianca doesn't really want anything to do with her father's business and Antonio is against his father's business, Claudio has decided that he will take on his father's business. I feel like Claudio would be a little, I guess, naive to what his father has done, or refuses to see it, or knows, just doesn't disagree with it. I don't know, but that's certainly the tea. In The Sims 2, Claudio and Olivia are actually deceased, which is why Mercutio and Romeo live with their grandparents. But again, playing off of The Sims 4 parallel universe, Claudio and Olivia are alive, and Patrizio and Isabella are deceased. And I feel like it's up to Claudio to decide whether or not he wants to bring about his father's business the same way as his father ran it or take it in a brand new direction. And that's definitely what I had in mind when starting this save file. Is I wanted to bring more life into the game, number one, but also say you're not really the type of player to want to create your own family. You prefer playing with the pre-made Sims and going along and continuing their story. This would be a good save for players like that, or players who do like playing with their own families and getting involved with the world around them, or even just completely ignoring the world around them, but knowing the world around them has just a little bit of life. And that's why I used a lot of inspiration from The Sims 2 and The Sims 3. One, all the Sims games are tied together, and two, they definitely have a lot of the storylines I've been looking for and can, I guess, alter in my own way. In The Sims 2, Olivia and Claudio actually were supposed to have a third baby, and Olivia passed away with an unborn baby. Literally, when you look on Sims Wiki, it says unborn baby Monty, which is pretty interesting because I don't think in any Sims games really your Sims who are pregnant can pass away. Maybe with cheats. I don't know. I've never had it happen. Unfortunately, there isn't really much more to say about Olivia other than she's Claudio's wife and that she is helping Bianca fulfill Isabella's restaurant dreams, because Olivia does kind of share that whole interest as well, at least more than Bianca does. Her and Claudio have two boys, Mercutio and Romeo, which both I feel like are similar, but only in the fact that they're both romantics. However, Mercutio being more on the hopeless romantic side, where Romeo is more on the just plain romantic side. He just wants to swoon all girls that he sees, which is pretty funny because in Romeo and Juliet, that's the irony of Romeo falling in love with Juliet. In the very beginning of the play, he's distressed over Rosalind, another girl that he's supposedly in love with, but she doesn't want anything to do with Romeo. Also in the play, Mercutio is actually Romeo's best friend and friend of the Monty family, or at least in the play, the Montague family. And in The Sims, he's Romeo's brother. Neither one of them really have any care about the family drama. For one, Romeo is involved with Juliet, and two, Mercutio has a crush on Hermia. And actually, Hermia's cousin Miranda has a crush on Mercutio, which this is where the whole relationship thing would come in handy, because Mercutio in turn doesn't really have a crush on Miranda. He's more interested in Hermia. He also has a negative relationship with Tybalt, Hermia's brother, probably over the fact that Tybalt is way overprotective of both of his sisters. So Tybalt also hates Romeo, but Romeo is more of an I don't care kind of attitude. In the play of Romeo and Juliet, Tybalt actually is the one who takes Mercutio's life, and then Romeo in turn takes Tybalt's life. Obviously that isn't going to happen in The Sims. I mean, it could, but I think it would be pretty funny to have Tybalt a part of one type of club and then Mercutio have his own type of club, and then they kind of butt heads, almost like the Paragons and the Renegades. I'm definitely up for any type of suggestions, so if you have any, definitely leave me a comment down below, because building up the save file from the ground up will definitely give me some, I guess, art block, because this does use a lot of creativity, and sometimes I really don't know where to take some of the stories or like the builds and some of the families. Plus, if I'm going to be sharing this save file with you, I'd like to know what you would like implemented, because I know a lot of people are upset about the lore and families that were input into The Sims and their expansions and whatnot. So I'd really love to know what you would like implemented. It doesn't even have to be families from previous games, or it could be families from previous games just in the future, or like, you know what I mean. Hopefully you know what I mean. Anyways, leave your suggestions down below and any recommendations. Also, what you think about the Monty family and the Cap family and their whole feud. I will have some screenshots of the whole Monty family, so stick around for those. And if you have made it this far in the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd like to thank and welcome all new subscribers. I really appreciate you sticking around, and I hope you enjoy all the other content that I put out and expect more of the lore telling and more videos of building this save file. I'd also like to thank my supporters on Patreon, Pau, Tiffany, and Jen. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye!